The growth of the tourism industry can have a massive impact on the economic development of a country and affect the quality of life for its residents. However, it can also have a damaging effect on the environment. In this year's AQA pre-release booklet, we'll be investigating tourism and development in the Cayman Islands. Welcome to the 2023 pre-release booklet from AQA on tourism and development. This is going to be used for paper 3 on Friday the 16th of June 2023 in the afternoon session. Be sure to check out my paper 3 video and other exam videos specifically for the 2023 series, as well as my exam resources that will be linked in the description or on my website.
The pre-release booklet has 3 figures that are spread over 6 pages. A blank version of this document will be given to you in the actual exam room to accompany the exam paper. You will then be able to refer to the document when answering your questions on this issue. I have produced a lesson presentation and a mock exam paper to accompany this year's pre-release, so check out my website or the link in the description for more information. When going through the pre-release, I suggest you make notes, highlight information, or use some post-it notes. You can use the timestamps in the description to skip ahead to each figure. You need to study this document before heading into the exam for these main reasons. You need to understand the main points, key information, and data or graphs. Knowing the location of the information will save you time in the exam, and you can start to form your own opinion. You'll also be able to identify the positives and negatives for the issue. When approaching paper 3, you'll also need to demonstrate your understanding of fieldwork principles through generic fieldwork and personal fieldwork questions. Make sure you also watch my paper 3 breakdown video to review everything you need to know heading into the final geography exam.
Figure 1 provides a broad overview of the increase of tourism data on a global scale, as well as the specific increase in cruise tourism. It is also evident that certain countries are heavily reliant on tourism for a large percentage of their total income.
The first section highlights the importance tourism can have on the development of a country. Tourism contributes to 3 important development goals. This creates job opportunities, generates income, and has a positive effect on the balance of trade. There is a strong link between development and the improvement in quality of life for local people. This could be felt directly by people working in tourism-related service industries like hotel and restaurant staff, but also indirectly through the multiplier effect. The multiplier effect is when the increase of industry and jobs increase tax contributions and investment in an area which leads to improved quality of life. This then becomes a cycle as there are increased opportunities in the area which creates further momentum. This is particularly relevant in this case as a greater investment in the tourism provision can lead to greater tourist visitors and therefore more income. In tourist destinations, commonly there is a lack of opportunity for industrial development and jobs. Tourism can create some exciting opportunities and increase living standards in some of the poorest communities. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism contributes 13.6% to the world economy and 9.9% of total jobs. Low-income countries and newly emerging economies can rely on tourism for over 20% of their total income. In comparison, the UK and USA percentages are much lower. When looking at the international tourist arrivals by world region, we see Europe receiving the most tourists. The Americas was the next highest, but around 2005 there was a sharp increase in the visitors to Asia and the Pacific region. These are the destinations most reliant on tourism for their income. The common trend is that most of these are all relatively small island nations. On page 3 we see the increase of cruise tourism. From 2009 it increased from around 18 million passengers to 30 million passengers by 2019. The Caribbean has the biggest market share with over a third of all cruise visitors. The global cruise industry accounts for $130 billion and creates jobs paying $50 billion. As the Caribbean has the biggest market share of cruise customers, The last part of Figure 1 concentrates on the importance it holds to the group of islands. The Tourism Minister explains the importance it has and how it links to quality of life and the multiplier effect. For every $1 of visitor spending, long-stay visitors generate $1.6, whilst cruise ship visitors generate $1.2. If $100,000 is invested, that equates to 50 jobs being created, as well as for every hotel room creates one job. Marine tourism generates 200 million jobs. 95% of ecotourism revenue is put back into the local economy, with all-inclusive package tours contributing 20% into the local economy. Ecotourism conserves the environment, sustains the well-being of the local people, and usually involves some form of education for the visitors. An all-inclusive holiday is where most of the costs are included in the price of the holiday. This includes flights, accommodation, food, drinks, and activities. The last impact on Figure 1 highlights the negative effect that cruise ships produce 70,000 tonnes of wastewater per year. Cruise ship wastewater is a mixture of water from sinks, showers, kitchens, and toilets. It also contains food waste and rubbish. Cruise ships are required to treat their wastewater before discharging it into the ocean. The treatment process includes removing solid waste, bacteria, and viruses. The discharge of wastewater from cruise ships can have a negative impact on the environment. It can pollute coastal waters and harm marine wildlife. Here are some possible questions that could accompany Figure 1. The final possible question asks you to discuss how the tourism industry has changed and will expect you to reference some of the data presented in Figure 1. Don't forget you will have Figure 1 in front of you when answering the issue evaluation section on Paper 3.
Figures 2 and 3 then focus on the development of the cruise industry in the Cayman Islands. Figure 2 provides evidence that there needs to be an investment in a new harbour and port area to be able to meet the increased visitor numbers travelling on cruise ships.
The Cayman Islands are situated in the west of the Caribbean and comprise of 3 islands. Grand Cayman is the largest, with Georgetown designated as the capital city. The estimated population is around 78,000. Financial services and tourism account for around 50 to 60% of the GDP. The average income is around $71,000, with the Cayman Islands being classified as a high-income country. At the top of page 4, Figure 2 shows some data on the growth of imports and cruise passengers. We can see that imports have steadily risen from 1977 up to 554,844 tonnes in 2018. Cruise passengers have rapidly increased up to 1.92 million visitors in 2018. This increase is one piece of evidence to recommend further investment. There is also context given to the unsuitability of the cargo port, which is not appropriate for large amounts of tourists arriving in the Cayman Islands. In 2019, a new port development in Georgetown was proposed by the government. This new development is designed to reduce the time it takes for cruise ships to disembark, create social and economic opportunities, as well as improving the waterfront environment. The government believes that without this investment, visitor numbers could fall by up to 50%. However, there has been some opposition to the project, with locals believing it would damage the environment, and there should be more focus on long-stay visitors. The proposal sees the cargo ships being confined to a separate area. 2 new piers that are 305 metres long and 18 metres wide are to be constructed that could allow up to 4 cruise ships to be docked at a time. A new pedestrianised shopping and leisure area allows visitors to use these facilities before continuing on their journey using the provided bus and taxi services. However, some of the area's coral reefs would have to be dredged to a depth of 10 metres to allow the bigger ships to access the docks. Figure 2 continues on to page 5 with an article about the economy versus the environment. It details the opposing views of developing the economy compared to conserving the environment. The justification of the development is that attracting larger ships will further increase the 5,000 people that already rely on tourism for jobs. The fears of the environmental damage this could have could discourage stayover visitors, as they won't be able to enjoy the pristine and unique environment in the same way. The fact box then details some stats on the importance of tourist arrivals in the Caribbean. The term total tourism accounts for both the cruise ship arrivals and long stay arrivals. When we look at the source of cruise ship arrivals, 54% come from the USA, with Western Europe accounting for 26%. There is a trend that over the last 30 years visitor numbers have increased, but the visitor spending has decreased. Cruise ship passengers seem to visit for one day, with long stay visitors staying for an average of 8 days. Cruise ship passengers spend 55% less than long stay tourists. The last part of Figure 2 details the reasons why people visit the Cayman Islands. The climate is perfectly suited for all-year tourism with consistently warm temperatures. People then visit the beaches to witness the amazing marine life, explore the subtropical forests and enjoy the cultures and traditions of Georgetown. Possible questions for Figure 2 could include some data presentation and interpretation questions, while also explaining the importance of the proposed port development.
The final figure provides more information on the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative, positives and negatives of the project and the possible harmful effects on the surrounding coral reef. In the exam, you need to make your own judgment if you are for or against the project.
Figure 3 starts by illustrating the importance for the creation of jobs and the importance that regeneration could have to some of the poorest areas on the island. The Georgetown Revitalization Initiative will complement the proposed dock and port facility by developing the living and business spaces, restoring buildings, improvements to social and pedestrianised areas, as well as cycling access. The government has acknowledged concerns by pledging to work closely with environmental groups to minimise impacts, ensure constant monitoring of the marine environment, while also transplanting coral reefs to a new area. There are many positives and negatives highlighted in the document, and you need to consider all of these when making your decision. Do these positives outweigh the negatives? The last page of the pre-release highlights the major damage that could be expected if this development goes ahead. 15 acres of coral reef could be destroyed, with some of the endangered turtle wildlife also being impacted. 22 acres of seabed could be dredged, which could really affect the water clarity and therefore reduce scuba diving and snorkeling activities. All this development would result in permanent damage to the world-class coral reefs that exist in the Cayman Islands. There is also evidence that similar projects in the Caribbean have not always generated extra income and created environmental problems. Lastly, there are 4 statements that highlight for or against positions on the proposal. 2 of these are positive statements outlining the importance to the economy and supporting 4,000 jobs. The negatives summarise the concerns over the future of the marine environment.
To conclude the resource, this leads to the question, are you for or against the proposed cruise ship terminal and port? Do you agree that the economy will improve and that greater job opportunities will lead to better quality of life? Or do you disagree and support the view that extensive damage to the environment and coral reef will massively outweigh the benefits to the economy?
You need to develop your own opinion on this issue and be prepared to write at length on the reasons for and against the proposal. Here are 3 possible questions that I believe will come up in the exam on Figure 3. Take a screenshot of the questions and complete in your own time. Write your answers with a partner or group and ask your teacher to take a look at your responses.
So that summarises the 2023 pre-release. Be sure to check out my other exam videos, resources and mock exam papers on my website or in the description below. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel.